The intensity of fighting in the Zaporizhzhia region is increasing. The enemy is using heavy equipment and aviation in their assaults. They are attacking the Robotyne salient both from the east, from Novopokrovka towards Mala Tokmachka, and from the west, from Nesteryanka towards Novodanilivka. After our drone operators, the artillerymen get to work. A report from Zaporizhzhia by TSN correspondent Ruslan Irmulyuk. Next.
Paroton.
There are 2 to 3 tons there. It depends. It all depends on how it works. This guy, Zaduba, whose name is Vitali and who is originally from Volyn, carries 2 tons of shells by hand. He is the father of 3 children. I could leave, but my brother is here and I am here. Almost everyone in this crew is a volunteer. They've been fighting since 2022 to 2023. Most of them started in the infantry, and now, after training, they're artillerymen.
Back in 2022, when it all started, well, I'm not a military man myself. I mean, I never served, but we went anyway, just on enthusiasm.
Because of the large number of enemy drones in the air, the vehicle is dug in, camouflaged, and covered with nets.
In 2023, we didn't have this level of intensity, or so many different types of threats. But by 2024, drones had already started appearing. Let's put it that way, intensively. And as of today, there are more and more of them.
Lyman is standing guard by the cannon with a shotgun.
There are 10 buckshot rounds in each magazine, and I have 2 magazines with me. Well, if needed, I can fire all 10 times. At the ones that are flying, the ones we shoot down.
The enemy is watching carefully, but tries to advance every day. If they can't get through on foot, they come on armored vehicles, motorcycles, and it's like this every day. When they attack with large assault groups and armored vehicles, then the gun crews work until the barrels are red hot.
At most, the guys have even fired more than 100 shots in a single shift. That is, in a day and a half, or 2 days. That has happened too. Sometimes it's 20, sometimes 30 shots. It all depends on the intensity, on how much the enemy is pushing onto our land, in our direction.
Right now, they're firing high-explosive fragmentation shells at the infantry. The self-propelled gun is aimed at the target, and the shells fly into the steppe and the tree lines.
We work with pinpoint strikes. That is, we try our best not to give away our position. Because there are a lot of drones in the air, they can spot us, and we might get hit in return. That's why we try to be more precise, only firing when it's really necessary. Many of our pilots are working with FPV drones and dropping munitions, and we support them.
The gun fires, the camouflage nets drop, and the vehicle hides. Somewhere out in the field, the first explosions of enemy artillery shells are already echoing, blending with the reverberations of aerial bomb blasts.
They use aviation every day. You could almost play a game of chance with how often it happens. Because these operations predominantly take place during the evening hours, they typically launch a considerable number, often 5 or 6, and sometimes even more than that, on an almost daily basis, consistently throughout the week. Here.
They became who they are now, warriors. Ruslan, Yermolyuk, Mikhailo Putya, and TSN. 1 + 1.
In the occupied Kherson region, the so-called head of the Council of Deputies, Volodymyr Oleontiev, has been eliminated. This information was officially confirmed by the Gauleiter Volodymyr Saldo. It happened this morning. Exclusive footage of the liquidation of the main collaborator of Nova Kakhovka was shown by journalist Yuri Butusov. He also added that, according to sources, this action is linked to the activities of the local resistance movement and is an act of retribution against traitors and collaborators of the occupiers. Let me remind you, Leontiev is known for, in March 2022, giving the order to Russian soldiers to kidnap and torture the mayor of Berislav, Alexander Shapovalov, for which the collaborator was sentenced in absentia to 15 years. The situation at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant is critical. The plant has been operating solely on backup diesel generators for 10 days now. And the current fuel reserves will last for about the same amount of time, according to statements from the International Atomic Energy Agency. The Director General of the IAEA, Rafael Grossi, stated that this situation is unstable from a nuclear safety perspective because if the backup systems fail completely, there will be a risk of nuclear fuel meltdown. Such an emergency situation at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant has occurred for the first time in its entire history. President Zelensky spoke about this the day before. He instructed the Ministries of Energy and Foreign Affairs to draw the world's attention to the issue, to put pressure on Russia so that it would allow the repair of the power transmission line. The Security Service of Ukraine has notified in absentia a Russian general who commanded the blowing up of the Kakhovka hydroelectric power plant that he is under suspicion. This concerns Major General Volodymyr Omelyanovich, the Chief of Staff and First Deputy Commander of the Dnipro grouping of the Russian Armed Forces. According to the investigation, it was he who, on the night of June 6, 2023, coordinated the actions of his subordinates in the destruction of the dam of the Kakhovka hydroelectric power plant. The scale of this crime is staggering. 35 civilians were killed. Another 24 went missing. 46 settlements were flooded. Almost 1,500 hectares of agricultural land in the Kherson region were affected. Several regions experienced problems with water supply. There is also a threat to the technical maintenance of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. It is a day of mourning in the Krasnopil community in Sumy region, where today they said goodbye to a family killed by Russia. The couple, 26-year-old Alyona and 35-year-old Alexander, and their sons Denis and Yehor, who were 4 and 6 years old. The night before, an enemy Shahed drone crashed into their house. No one survived. The family used to live in Krasnopilia, but when the shelling there intensified, they moved to the village of Chernechina, to a house they had inherited. Alyona Lesnichenko was 5 months pregnant and was already preparing things for the birth of twins. Her husband had been fighting since 2018 and had just returned on leave. The village of Chernechina is 18 kilometers from the border, yet throughout the year, it was relatively calm there, so the family bought another house in the village where they planned to move in the coming days. The deceased family was buried in the local cemetery. For the first time in many years, due to an enemy attack, the city of Slavutych in the Kyiv region was left without power. The Russians struck the local substation, and as a result, the city of 20,000 was left without electricity and water. The local authorities are setting up points of invincibility, where they promise to provide power for communications. Some communities in Chernihiv region are also without electricity.
The enemy has occupied Poltavka in the Donetsk region and has also advanced near Novoivanivka in the Dnipropetrovsk region and in the Serebryansky forestry in the Luhansk region. This was reported by the analytical portal Deep State. At the same time, Ukrainian defenders have achieved successes in the area of Dobropilya near Pokrovsk, where some Russian units are encircled. By the way, the enemy is experiencing an especially acute shortage of fuel and lubricants there due to precise Ukrainian strikes on Russian oil refineries. The Third Army Corps is demonstrating successful hunting of swarms of enemy UAVs. Its fighters choose the tactic of climbing higher and attacking the airspace intruder from above. Overall, the enemy lost 9 Molniya strike UAVs, which did not reach our positions. In the Novopavlivka direction, the armed forces of Ukraine are beginning to push back Russian troops. Ukrainian drones are blocking the occupiers' advance along logistical routes. As a result, they move on foot within a 20-kilometer zone from the front line to avoid being spotted by drones. And ultimately, only 1 out of 10 invaders reaches the Ukrainian positions. According to fresh data from the General Staff, there were 137 engagements along the entire front line over the past day. And now about enemy losses. Here are today's figures from the General Staff. In the past day alone, Russian occupiers lost 920 soldiers killed and wounded, and since the beginning of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, the Russian army has decreased by 1,111,480 troops. Our defenders also destroyed enemy equipment. Over 11,000 tanks and 23,000 armored combat vehicles have been destroyed in the fighting. Additionally, 33,324 enemy artillery systems, 1,500 multiple rocket launch systems, and 1,224 air defense systems have been eliminated. 65,552 tactical level drones and 3,790 cruise missiles have been neutralized. To date, 427 Russian aircraft and 346 helicopters have been shot down. And at sea, 28 ships and boats and 1 submarine have been neutralized.